Pastor Craig asked me to tell you how God led me to go and stay in Mexico. And so I am going to tell you this story. About 4 years ago, I went to Mexico on a mission trip. I had a few things happen during that trip that made me suffer, actually. Things that I saw that I couldn't unsee, that I wanted to unsee. A starving dog. People standing on a train because they were disenfranchised and had nowhere to go, and so they just traveled in this incredibly dangerous way to travel. A family who had to leave their children in an orphanage because they worked 7 days a week and they weren't able to physically care for their own children. And all of these things made me think I never want to go back to Mexico again, actually. I never want to go back again. I don't care. I want to go back to the comfort of my own home, and I never want to feel as bad as I felt hearing those stories and trying to help those people. But God is a very convincing sort. So what I did was I started to research ways that I could actually maybe impact the problems that I had seen. And so that's what I did. I actually contacted a dog rescue, and I found an organization that helps educate children. And I found an orphanage that needed an English teacher. And I started to, and I spoke to someone that helps feed the homeless. And so I started to volunteer in these organizations, and I started to realize that God needed me there more. So even though it was really uncomfortable and there was a lot less amenities, I decided to go down and live here full time with my younger boys. My husband stayed in Phoenix and is working there full time and comes down every single weekend after 5 days a week working in construction. He comes down and he volunteers with me almost every weekend because we do whatever the ministries we work with tell us to do. For the most part, we help feed the homeless every single week, almost every single day actually. We have a mix of the homeless bags that we feed the homeless, and then we have a ministry where we cook and we feed them on the weekends. And we also have a dog rescue that we work with, and I'm also a full-time teacher. And so I get to work with special needs children and the children that have literally never been to school before in their lives, and I teach high school. So we are teaching children sometimes their letters because they never had an opportunity to go to school, because I have an organization now, a ministry, that helps us with that. So the things that I've been doing while I'm down here have been really hard. They've been really hard. I'm listening to God. I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I was surprised He would make it so hard. I guess I thought that if I started listening, that maybe my life would be easier. You know, my parents always told me, boy, your life would be easier if you listened more. I'm not finding that to be completely true now. But I know that when I do listen to God, I gain a strength that I need for the next step. I know that the things that I'm doing give me literal evidence of God's presence in my life and in the lives of the people around me. And that has given me a peace that I didn't know was possible before I started to listen. And I started to realize that even the suffering itself is a blessing, because the strength that I gain, the things that I witness, are things that can't be recreated by having a dishwasher or really fast internet or fast food at my disposal, or even hot water or running water sometimes. I hear God louder here. I'm not as distracted by things. I hear God louder. I'm not special. I'm not different than anyone else. In fact, I'm probably worse than most of the people listening to this video. What I am is really lucky that God spoke loudly enough that I was finally willing to listen. I'm surrounded by people that are really good examples for me. And I guess what I want to say is that I've learned that strength isn't free, and that suffering isn't the worst thing in the world. It actually gives me that strength that I want. And I love having the opportunity to glorify God and to listen to humanity, and maybe seeing the suffering of humanity isn't the worst way to see the glory of God. I'm glad I started listening to him. I wouldn't change a single bit of my life.